Саламатсыздар ма, құрметті әріптестер. SHARE жобасының
Dear
симпозиумына
colleagues, good day. Welcome to our symposium. Welcome to our conference. Welcome to the symposium on SHARE. We will speak different languages, English, Russian, Kazakh. We have interpreters.
Орысшасы исследование практики в действии.
Have skills for the research in at Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools. Let me thank the organizers for giving us the opportunity to work under this project with the schools of Nur Sultan. And today, we'd like to share the evidence base, to share the information about our activities, how we performed our studies in schools. Let me give the floor to the co-moderator, Colleen McLaughlin, who will lead this session.
Thank you very much, Nazipa. And I too would like to thank everybody for this opportunity. And I hope you will enjoy our session. In this session, we are very research focused. We have very different actors, all the actors who are part of the project. In other words, the development team in Nur Sultan and in Cambridge, the teachers and the Center for Modernization. And we also, although not speaking today, have a school in the UK also involved. So you will hear from all of these perspectives. And these perspectives will all be giving you different types of research on the project with different foci for these different research projects. So everything you will hear is going to be either research informed or from research created within the project. And we hope it'll be useful. You will have 5 sessions, mini sessions within this symposium, each of about 10 minutes long. So I also want to acknowledge the support of the Akim, because this is a partnership between the Faculty of Education and Nur Sultan Akimat and the schools within that. So next slide, please. So I want to begin by giving the aims of our project, because they are quite complex. We're working at very different levels, but the overall aim is to improve the learning of all students and teachers. And we put those side by side because one cannot happen without the other. And so the teacher development is our lever. It is, we believe, the most powerful point for intervention in an education system. And that's what the project is focused on. We are aiming to facilitate the critical reflection of teachers on practice, not just the theory, but we also want them to get very engaged in practice. In many ways, an action research project is about the creation of new practices. So we want people to take action on what they've learned. Thus, we use the action research model. We're also trying to create, and this is very challenging, the enabling conditions for this work at 3 levels. At the level of the classroom and the teacher, at the level of the school, and at the level of the Akimat. How can this work be sustained? So we are trying to build a professional learning community in the school and between schools, where action research can work well for all. It can be sustainable and it can be embedded. So we are therefore creating a network. And our other aim, which you're going to hear the results of today, is to monitor, research, and learn from what we're doing at every step of the journey. And that includes having to adapt, as we've had to during this project. since we've had to adapt to what everybody else has, the COVID epidemic. Okay, so those are where we are. Those are what you can measure what people are saying against, since those are our aims. Next slide, please. So the principles of our action in this project, or of that plan you've just seen of those aims, are all those that come from existing research. Existing research on effective school development, existing research on effective teacher development, on action research, and on teacher learning. So, as I've said, principle number one is the teacher is the key to the development and to student learning. In a previous seminar today, I said that the effect size, in other words, the impact size of working with teachers on their professional development is 0.9. That is high. As an intervention in education, that is high. So we know that this is tested, and it's been tested around the world in many contexts, in many cultures. The second thing we try to take cognizance of is that changing practice in the classroom is complex. Policymakers often assume that it's simple. It is not. It is deeply complex. It's a highly emotional task for a teacher to change the way they've been doing something, to change the way they think about what happens in their classroom, to change the way they see, is a deeply cognitive, emotional, professional task. And it is deeply connected to the historical and cultural context. I have learned more in the last 10 years when I've been working in Kazakhstan about the wonderful traditions of education and the impact of them on how a teacher acts, how a teacher works in their daily life, and how they see themselves. The other crucial element of our principles, this is the one that we have a lot of evidence on now, is that teachers need and deserve constant support while they're being asked to go through such a process. They need modeling, which is why we involve another school in the UK. They need to see these practices. They need appropriate leadership as part of the enabling conditions. And in many ways, that's a leadership task, the creation of the conditions in the school, the space in the school in which this project can actually occur. So we also know from research that you can't work with an individual. You have to create these professional communities of practice in and between schools that support each other and positively challenge each other to support the above aims. Change and development takes time. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we're beginning now to see, I think, real change, but it should not be distorted or rushed. And our desire to work fast and work at scale sometimes is one of the biggest handicaps we have. I've already said there's a need for flexibility, for research on impact, and that's what we're trying to present you with today, and policy support. And finally, on this slide, it is what really happens, not what we want to happen, that we must pay attention to. The reality of implementation is the most ignored aspect of policy development, and it must be monitored. And that's part of what we're doing in this presentation. Next slide. So here we have the 3 key elements, if you like, of our project. School-based support and organization. We're working with leadership. We're working in ways that try to develop commitment to the project. And we're working with groups and practitioners. So all of those elements have to be engaged with in the project. We have external support and team leadership from colleagues based in Cambridge, but also, and particularly important, from colleagues in Kazakhstan. We've learned through the pandemic, it's been one of our great learnings as to how that share that leadership, develop that leadership, and build capacity. Capacity building will decide whether this project is sustainable or not. And we also have to share from experience and from research models of work in action in school. People need to see and need support and help in order to visualize the conditions in their school. And then the third level is working at the network and policy level, the local support, but also the engagement and support of senior policymakers. And this is one of the things we've been very lucky about in the project so far. Next slide, please. Now, I'm not going to go through this slide, but you can begin to see that the scale of it is increasing. So I just want to give you some flavor of how it actually looks in reality. We started with group 1, 5 schools in 2019, and each of the groups have had similar elements of experience. Group 1 were very lucky enough to visit Cambridge. They visited the faculty, they spent a lot of time in Bossisham Village College, a school that we've worked with over a long time here. And then we were lucky enough to have face-to-face workshops back in Kazakhstan. That, as you well know, changed in March 2020 when we went online. We have also had three other elements that have been very, very important. Mini conferences where we present our work to each other and we're part of the dissemination between and across the project. The appointment of network learning coordinators who are crucial in this project. Local meetings in Kazakhstan, and providing materials and readings online in perusal. And you'll see all of those elements mentioned. The difference between the groups is group 2, we took on 8 schools. They had similar elements, but all online. Group 3 have just started. They've been 1 term in, and they've got similar elements. And then we have the Center for Modernization, who are supporting the project and developing their own learning at the same time. And we have the Cambridge team, which includes 2 colleagues who will speak at the end of this session, who have a responsibility for some evaluation work. So it's growing. We have 21 schools so far. And the idea is that each one of those schools is attached to another school in its network. So we are growing the demand, the scale of the project, and trying to do that as well and as slowly as we can. So thank you so much. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Nazipa Ayubayeva, who has been a key element of this project as a leader and has also led the local sessions. And she's going to talk about evidence from the Facebook site that we have established. Over to you, Nazipa.
Thank you so much, Professor McLaughlin. Okay, коллеги, сейчас поделюсь. Я буду говорить о развитии
colleagues, I will share my presentation. I will talk about the developing reflective teacher practice at SHARE project, evidence from Facebook. I'll try to explain how we developed it. And as Professor McLaughlin mentioned, the important part of monitoring the action in practice is the reflective teacher practice. And it's not just reflective, but it should be
also critical, and critical is not criticizing, but being a critical friend, trying to look at things from other point, from other hand. And our practice is the following, that the reflective practice should be the most important if you want to study how practice is working in reality. For us, it was important to see whether our teachers have reflective practice in reality with those teachers we involve and how they understand it. And unfortunately, we do say that we have reflective practice, but unfortunately, there are some primitive settings of it, and I will explain what I mean. And before we mean to the evidence base, I'd like to stop on the impact of the teacher on student achievement. Research tells the following: if you are a thinking teacher and if you can just simply create your lesson, that means that your impact on student achievement is very low. If you start working with someone else who can look at your practice from other angle, then you will have medium impact. And if you will work with those people who teach the same child or in the same class other subjects, for example, biology, chemistry, and other subjects, and if you will plan your classes together, then you will be able to plan your class with a high impact on the student achievement. And we have evidence from research, for example, the influence of the teacher on the student's performance from 3% to 18% of changes in achievement. And we always say that performance of students depends on the skills of the teacher, and how to measure it, no one knows. And the research tells us if you just develop your classes yourself, you will not have high impact. You will be just transferring your knowledge, but you will not understand what the student needs. That's why the research show us that the school-wide collaborative professional development is very important. So if teachers will work collaboratively, discuss problems of children, how can they motivate the students, or do one cross-cutting topic in all subjects just to be convenient for the student, then it makes the studying more effective and the learning process. And now we are introducing lesson studies as an example, or action research in Kazakhstan. These are concepts that were used in Japan and England, and they proved their success as a tool. And now, how we use these tools in SHARE project in order to teach our teachers, because first of all, we realized that maybe teachers don't read professional literature. Why? Because there was no need for that. They had everything in their textbooks, in their programs, curriculums. That's why our teachers were not reading professional literature. And as now we have the updated content of curriculum, they are forced now to read more professional literature. But in the frames of our SHARE project, we revealed that still not many teachers do read. And we introduced the result reading platform. We upload all necessary literature that is required for them to study their implementation practice. We also started WhatsApp consultation platforms where we, for example, provide information where we will have the next session, or they can ask questions to each other. So this is also a form of consultation. And as Professor McLaughlin had mentioned, due to pandemic, we all moved to Zoom, and this mentoring in order for them to be able to get a consultation and advice, or get some advancement in their practice in action is very useful. And the most interesting is Facebook. We started Facebook in order to see how many teachers are registered in Facebook, in order to have this pool of teachers who actually are involved in the research of the action of practice. But we realized that Facebook can be a very good tool to, first of all, develop reading, and second, develop the reflection practice. Because how it happened with us. For example, we have Share One, and this is a group of schools, 37, 58, 59, 67, 76. I have 126 people who are participants in Facebook, and for 3 years they are jointly presented at Share platform in Facebook. And when we analyzed data, we actually saw that what they wrote on the first year of the project implementation, then during the second year of project implementation and third year, we decided that it's better to have these projects that started in different years on different Facebook platforms. For example, Share 2 is schools number 50, 53, 56, 66, 70, 72, number 7, and 74. And they are communicating for 2 years. And there is a third team that is communicating for 1 year. What we revealed here, the following, that Facebook is a safe environment for written reflection, because in 2019, when our first group started Share One, they were having always a descriptive provision of facts only. For example, today we have a mentorship, or today we discuss this and that with professors. During the second year, we see that they start reflecting. They also share their doubts, whether we do something properly. They ask questions, they raise questions, they start discussing content. And on Facebook, they ask several questions. And in 21, we already saw that they start not just explaining what they got, what they discuss, how they use in practice, but they discuss how can it impact on the student they are teaching. And it was interesting to observe how the discussion, the reflective discourse is changing on Facebook platform. That's why we understood that during the first step, they have this doubts. First, they start with explanation, description, then they have doubts, and then they come to reflection. And we hope that in years 4 and 5, they will have critical reflection, when they will be able to evaluate each other and have critical thinking to each other. There is an interesting phenomena which we call sunflower phenomena, group thinking versus critical thinking. And once at the local session, I showed this field, sunflower field, and asked my teachers to tell me what they see, how could they interpret it in the frames of their school staff. And there were many opinions. Some of them said that this is not right, that one sunflower is looking the other way, everyone should be looking the same way because we are doing one job. Others were saying that this is again not right because one person is separated from the whole team, probably thinks differently. But when I provided a different perspective, that maybe he sees something differently, maybe he starts thinking critically, and maybe he throws some ideas like, can we teach a child differently? Then teachers started to write their posts in Facebook, and it was very interesting to see how they were reflecting on it. For example, they said that looking at this sunflower, which is looking other way than others, I also thought that it's not right. Why is it separated from the team? And then the teacher says that, but now I understand that it's a colonial thinking, and we are not able to think critically. We always want everyone to look one direction, but we have to admit that sometimes this group thinking actually overtakes the critical thinking. And that was interesting that they were not afraid actually admitting this, because they feel that Facebook is a safe environment for them. That's why we believe that this Share 3 that have just started, it's just their first year, what we see in Facebook, that they only share posts with descriptions. The ones that are in the second year, Share 2, they already have some doubts, they already ask some questions. And Share 1, who are now in their third year, they already have certain reflections. and not just doubts. And what is very important in action research, and the foundation is reflective practice. And the core of action research is reflective practice, because if you don't think about what you do, how you act during the class, and if you don't reflect after the class, and if you don't have reflective thinking about how you prepare for the class, what you do during the class, and what you do after, if you don't analyze, then you will not be able to develop successful plans for effective learning of students. So there are some books presented for you here about the reflective practice and teaching, and this reflective teaching of Andrew Collin is translated to Kazakh language, and you will be able to read it and access it on Open UKZ. The same way, I think that using Facebook as a basis, people started to share their doubts, even if they start just with description, but still we're moving. And now we have a good activity on defending their posters. So people are starting to give presentations at smaller conferences. Now they approach bigger conferences. And it's a big evidence that teachers from the SHARE project, they are like teachers from Nazarbayev intellectual schools. They provided and applied their posters to big conferences. They started writing their articles, and we have a number of publications from our teachers, which we are very glad to see, because teachers that being involved in the SHARE project for 3 years, they started already publishing their articles in Russian, Kazakh, and English language. And this is our beautiful team. And thanks to the SHARE project, I believe many teachers had opened the world of research for themselves. And I never had a case in my practice when the main people who wanted to be part of action research, that they then decided to leave the project. I think it's also a great achievement of the comfortable conditions that we created for our teachers. Many thanks for your attention, and we are open to answer many questions. Colin, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nazipa. And please do take note of your questions. We will have time at the end where we hope to be able to answer and engage with you. So now we're going to shift to the perspective of 3 of the network learning coordinators, very important people. These are people who are in the schools in group SHARE 1, and they became the group that are now facilitating the learning in other groups. We're helping them to develop, they're already experienced. So we look forward to hearing what they're saying. And Nara, over to you.
Thank you. Добрый день, уважаемые участники. Приветствую вас на сегодняшнем симпозиуме. Меня зовут
Dear participants, I'd like to welcome you on the symposium. My name is Anna Rezhanova. I'm a network coordinator of the 59th School Lyceum of the SHARE project. I'd like to also mention my colleagues, the network coordinators, Orazaly Sultanbek from school number 67, and Kombat Khojahmet from the school Lyceum 76. I'd like to present you our research training observation as a tool to collect evidence on teacher learning in SHARE project. And our research question is, how effective is the observation method in teaching group 2 teachers in the SHARE project? Research purpose, collect evidence on teacher training in SHARE 2 schools through observation. This project is implemented with the participation of Cambridge University, Akimatov Nur-Sultan Center for Modernization of Education of Nur-Sultan, and Nur-Sultan City Schools. We have project schools SHARE 1, SHARE 2, SHARE 3, and the main idea is to establish a hub of schools in Nur-Sultan, and it's very important to develop a network society between schools, and one of the approaches is to use network coordinators. From the SHARE 1, we selected 5 network coordinators who are collecting evidences about teaching of teachers, which is observed by also the teachers from Cambridge. And during pandemic, such monitoring was conducted in online and local sessions were offline. And the observation method is the method that allows us to collect deep data. And as Colin mentioned, what people do can be different from what they say, and control allows us to check the truth.
In SHARE project, network coordinators can see the discussions during the sessions with mentors. They can observe the work done in the local sessions. And John Gore also said that observing other teachers may improve our learning as the network coordinator. In our practice, network coordinators can contribute a lot to the development of the project in their schools. When observing the sessions of the SHARE 2 project and by providing the feedback on the performance of trainers. In SHARE, network coordinators observe and reflect at the same time. During the session, every network coordinator is given a school from SHARE 2, and network coordinators facilitate the discussions in the schools and wrap up at the end. And according to Berna's descriptions, for the participation in observations, you need to be neutral and open. And it's good to know more about the others, and the observer must be very attentive and good listener. Also be open to unexpected situations during learning. The methodology of control consists of 4 steps. It's observation, reflection, conclusions, and actions based on logic of the study, which is systematic and purposeful. And the first step is that the network coordinators observe the schools they're responsible for. They observe the discussions during webinars, virtual sessions, organized by mentors from the Cambridge University, as well as on-site sessions, local sessions, organized by the local trainer from Nur Sultan. On the next stage, network coordinators share the data with the local mentor from Nur Sultan and mentor from the Cambridge University. They share their thoughts and they get feedback from the local trainer and from the mentor from Cambridge using the observation approach. After the reflection, they make conclusions, they identify the needs of the schools in question, and using these results, mentors of Cambridge can make changes to some aspects of their plans as needed. The local trainer meets with the network coordinators locally and on the basis of data and needs analysis.
Бақылау қалай ұйымдастырылды? SHARE 2 мектептерін бақылау барысында желілік үйлестірушілер бекітілген немесе қатып қалған бақылау протоколын
How the observation is organized.
немесе құрылымдалмаған бақылау протоколын қолданылады. Желілік үйлестірушінің негізгі құралы ол рефлексивті күнделігі. Яғни рефлексивті күнделіктің бір бөлігінде сессиялар барысында айтылған ойлар мен көзқарастар және іс-әрекеттер тіркеліп отырады, ал екінші бөлік жазылып отырады. Сессиялар барысында
Opinions are recorded, and the conclusions are done. During the session, they work in teams or they can work individually. Then they guide the work, they organize the work, and also they cover all the participants. And they watch the development dynamics. The things to consider: leadership. It's important to watch the professional development and development of different qualities of a teacher. The session also talks about some ethical principles. The teachers do facilitation. They know that they are being observed. observed by 3 parties and the trainer agrees to that too. The confidentiality is maintained. All the information collected during research is kept confidential. Also, there is some information posted on the Facebook. During the session, they know that they are being observed. What does it mean, data triangulation? Data is collected from the trainer, from the coordinator, and teacher in share too. 19 participants took part. Trainers, network coordinator, and participants of the main group share too. Good day, my dear participants. Who are network coordinators? What do they do? Probably you're interested. On the basis of the data they obtain, these are the characteristics of the network coordinators. They are those who ensure the sustainability of the project, who is at this stage the link between schools and ensures the connection of the school. Also, they explain the mentors from Cambridge, the context in the schools. Another function is feedback provision. Trainers use the feedback in order to clarify the further steps. They share their experience. They keep on development all the time. They do reflection all the time. And network coordinators are effective because they always listen to the project participants. Another slide is about the effectiveness of the observation. How effective the methods of control are, as well as observation methods. We see that that when we worked with the second group, SHARE 2, the observation method determined the efficiency of the project in general. So what is the efficiency of the method and what impact it has on the project effectiveness? And this helped to adapt the project in the Kazakh context and opened the opportunities for observations. Different relevant issues are discussed. There is a feedback from 3 parties. It makes the project sustainable. And we see experience of different schools. We could share our experience as well. In the Nur Sultan city, the cooperation between the schools now. Specific data is obtained in schools for further discussion, generating different opinions. And it's important because the decisions are made based on evidence.
Олардың әрекеттерін байқап қалу оларды жігерлендіретінін біз көріп отырмыз. Бақылау шетелдің контекстіндегі теорияны жергілікті контекстте қаншалықты түсініп қалыптасып жатқанын анықтай
So how this can be used in the local context? And also we can provide timely support to our schools.
тигізер әсері немесе желілік үйлестірушілерге несімен тиімді. Жобаға жылда мектепте
Speaking of the observation and its efficacy, in the project we are having new schools every year,
оны толтыруға мүмкіндіктері бар. Яғни жыл сайын
but the content is the same. And if there are some flaws, every year they have an opportunity to fill the gaps. They collect the evidence-based data. According to the project idea,
қырынан қарастыруға үлкен мүмкіндіктер береді.
and then any other year, the chance is given to look at this issue from the different perspective.
Бұл адамдардың қалай оқып үйренуі туралы үйренуге алып келеді. Себебі бақылау барысында үйлестірушілер
Trainers or coaches' skills are better developed.
фокустық бақылау желілік үйлестірушілерге
The reflection is organized.
фокустық бақылау барысында желілік үйлестірушілер назарға тренерлерді, мектептерді, топтарды, мұғалімдерді алады. Тренерлерді фокусқа алған жағдайда желілік үйлестірушілер
What is happening during the observation?
яғни тренерлердің
The trainers and teachers are observed, and local teachers obtain trainers' skills. Observing that, we try to develop our skills. We have potential to obtain such skills.
мен жергілікті сессияларды ұйымдастырамыз. Сол жергілікті сессияларды
Together with the schools SHARE 2, we conduct local sessions.
өткізу барысында
We plan the sessions, we deliver the sessions. And during the sessions,
өзгерісіне біз үлкен жауапкершілік
the discussion is taking place.
және бұл тренерлерді бақылаған кезде жергілікті үйлестірушілер
It means that we feel responsible for the changes in the schools. We're owning those changes, and teachers and trainers, they are starting to think creatively, and they obtain better speaking skills, public speaking skills. And when we observe the schools, we watch the development in SHARE 2. And we compare the experience and the experience in our schools. And we exchange the experience. When we observe the schools of SHARE 2, we also see that there's some common problems for the schools. And we may see that these are the same problems that other schools in Kazakhstan face. So it's good to ensure collaboration and interaction between the schools. When we observe the groups, usually we pay attention to
яғни бұл жобаға қатысып жатқан мектептердің ішіндегі ұжымдық мәдениетіне назар аударамыз, және бұл мектептерде, яғни топтарда ынтымақтастық қалай орнап жатыр, және сол топтың ішіндегі әрбір қатысушының жеке ерекшеліктерін түсіну бізге үлкен, осы топты бақылағанда бізге үлкен мүмкіндіктер береді. Және мұғалімді бақылау. Бұл жерде жеке мұғалім ретінде ол мұғалімнің осы жобадағы рөлі қандай екенін біз бақылай аламыз, және біздің рөліміз қандай екенін біз салыстыра отырып, біз бір-біріміздің жаңағы әлсіз тұстарымызды, мықты тұстарымызды көре аламыз.
And what is the strong sides of the teachers? And we can observe the confidence in teachers. We now observe it, and through the development of teachers, we see that they are learning how to think systemically, and when they discuss problems, when they find solutions, they have different views. They were inside of the problem, and now they try to look at the problem from outside and try to find the integrated solutions. So this is a systematic approach. And also this cooperation among the network coordinators allows us to be reflective and to impact on how it's perceived. And as we've collected all of the evidences and facts, we came to certain conclusions. For example, to what extent the observing of the progress of the project is effective? We realize that it's very effective, as there is a high opportunity to look at problems from different angles during the sessions to provide real feedback. And we are currently using a practice of constructive criticism, and this observation method plays an important role in the sustainability of the project, as it's important to orient the project and provide timely support based on real and accurate data, especially in the Kazakhstani context. And how can we make projects sustainable exactly in Kazakhstan context? Here, the role of teachers is very important, and network coordinators still need theoretical knowledge of what to observe, what to watch for. We're still working in this direction. We are learning as project coordinators or network coordinators, and we understand that we still require additional theoretical knowledge, and network coordinators in general are the driving forces that serve as a bridge to a deeper understanding of the project context in both countries. And they are moving the projects. They watch over how the project is implemented in both England and Kazakhstani context. And network coordinators play the role of being connectors between two countries, which includes different social perception, cultural perception, and through monitoring of each session, we can make a decision on which problems to pay attention to, special attention to, because we have virtual session, we have local sessions, and from Cambridge, we receive theoretical information. They teach us on what to pay attention to, and what difficulties teachers face. We also see this, we can observe this, and we can work on improving these issues, and also in transferring these questions between two countries. On our local trainer Nazipa works, and we also have our coordinator. So here you see 5 network coordinators in our net, and also these are schools of SHARE too, and the linking role here is of network coordinators. We have a number of plans on the observation method improvement. We need to get additional knowledge and improve our observation skills. So we need to pay special attention to particular teachers during our online sessions and during our local sessions. And we need to pay separate attention to certain issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Anara Kumbat and Sultanbek. And now we move to the perspective of the teachers, and we're going to hear from Gul Jamila and her team talking about advantages and disadvantages of group training. Over to you. Thank you.
Сәлеметсіздер ме, әріптестер? Нұр-Сұлтан қаласы номері 59 мектеп лицейінің SHARE жобасына қатысушы еріктілер.
Good day, dear participants. We are SHARE project volunteers from School Lyceum 59, Gulchamila Sakhmurzayeva, Valentina Akhmetova, Zaidir Nazarova, and Akbata Nurmukhanova. We want to tell you what are the advantages and disadvantages of group training. And our research question is, do level assignments help increase students' leadership skills and motivation to learn? And our purpose is to enable students to perform complex tasks on their own. And Mr. Vasily Vasilyevich Davidov's approach is to conduct actions. And what were the actions performed? The leader of the team was selected from the team. So the objects of the research were named flowers. And the flowers team was inactive. They didn't try to do the tasks on their own. There was no support, and the other members of the team were passive. Only the leader was active. There was a strong hierarchy in the team, and these were the conclusions I made, that the responsibility for the work was also low, because the members of the team were trying to put responsibility on other members of the team. They didn't feel joint responsibility. They were feeling themselves vulnerable. They have had low self-esteem. They were not trying to implement the tasks. They were not achieving the result, and they all experienced the following problems: that they couldn't find the solutions to the problems, they were not interested, and they didn't have a sense of confidence. And what we noticed during our research, that it is important to pay attention to psychological, emotional status. And the American Psychology section said that we need to pay attention to external factors with such themes as flowers. And students say that they like when they are compared with others, but sometimes they lose their confidence if they are compared with others. And we understand that students feel themselves vulnerable, and they need to be more confident of their knowledge, and also increase the responsibility of from parents and from teachers. And as a result, pupils with the same opportunities or same conditions were giving different results, and we wanted to understand why is it happening, and want to learn more about how a group of students with similar abilities and levels can increase leadership skills and motivation to learn. So we did the following. We had a joint lesson plan development. We developed notes and checklists, and level A doesn't require teacher support, level B requires teacher support. And the assignments that were given to students were also monitored. So another requirement is to interview 3 students to find out what they think of the lessons and what are the conclusions after the joint discussion. And the classes of Kazakh language and chemistry analysis showed the following result, that the leadership skills, and we tried to select the children with high motivation. And first of all, for two tasks, and on these two tasks, we tried to reveal the role of the participants, of these students, and what were the results. For the first assignment, they were using various tools like WhatsApp, Dakate, and others, and they were working in a team. So first team did various experiments. Second team was doing a slightly different experiment with the nitrogen, and they were asking questions, they were developing presentations, and also there was a first cycle, second cycle, and a third cycle. They were discussing the issue, and they developed an action plan, applied certain actions, and also collected and analyzed the data. So when they used facts, it was very important. And the first student, they used the fact. The second student also provided the content. He developed the list of authors. So they distributed the work among the team members. And for the second task, they developed a presentation. They had a discussion. They asked questions. They developed an action plan. And let me present you the actions of the flowers object on actions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. On previous Kazakh language tasks, the objects didn't do all of their work based on the leaders, and on the next Kazakh language class, object 1 didn't do the home task, but when he checked the this homework of other objects, he found mistakes. On the next classes, object 1 wasn't present due to a reason, and then they noticed that the student became more confident. He took initiative on himself, and objects 1 and 2 in the beginning were slow and inconfident, but by the middle they became active and confidently answered the questions. The object 3 didn't much change, but was active in the group work. Object 5 tried to answer, but he wasn't confident, and the object 4 after the class said that they understood the topic, but their answers were not realistic. And when they conducted the physics task, object 1 distributed the tasks in the team and showed leadership skills. The object 2, when he defended, he tried to explain how they did the task to another group by showing the project that he developed, and object 1 raised his hand many times to add additional information on the topic. And object 5 actually took the second place because he solved complex tasks. And in the end, object 1 asked to evaluate the work of his team. And during the research, we saw the leadership skills of object 1 because he came to the level of self-assessment, which means the object is motivated to learning, a personal responsibility increased, and confidence increased. And by the results of the data received, increase of motivation and leadership skills, at least with one learner in the team, shows that our research is oriented on results oriented. And this situation led us to conclusion that psychological interoperability of learners can create a favorable environment to actively participate in the learning process, and interviews with learners after the classes allowed teachers to know their opinion about the effectiveness and challenges of the lessons, also planning the lessons with the adjustments after the analysis will allow teachers to increase quality and effectiveness of further tasks or further classes. And the floor to Valentina. Dear colleagues, in order to continue our presentation, we would like to share with you this video.
Құрметті әріптестер, рахмет. Осымен біздің
Thank you, dear colleagues. So with that, we've finished our presentation.
Thank you so much. And very nice to see, virtually anyway, a real school with real students. Thank you so much for that presentation. Now for the final aspect of our presentation, I'm going to hand over to two of my colleagues, Dr. Elena Fimia and Dr. Tianyi Wang, with the help of Paula, this study. And they have been engaged in looking at the impact of SHARE, and they've been doing some research, which they're going to explain to you now, over the last 3 years. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor McLaughlin. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our study here. I'm Tianyi, a research staff from Cambridge, and this mixed method study on the impact of SHARE has been conducted by my colleague, Dr. Elena Fimia, and Paula Contreras and me. And Elena and I will present our result here. The next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, and for this research, we have 3 main research questions. The first one is about the impact of SHARE on teaching and learning, teacher development, and school improvement. And second one is the obstacles in SHARE. And the last one is about enabling conditions. We have collected both qualitative and quantitative data. It includes 10 focus groups with the core team of SHARE 1 and SHARE 2 schools, the staff from the center and the network coordinators and the Cambridge team. And here that when we refer to SHARE 1, we mean that those colleagues who joined the project 2 years ago, and for SHARE 2 are those who joined for 1 year. And we interviewed 4 SHARE 1 schools and 2 SHARE 2 schools. And we have also delivered a professional learning community assessment survey to all the SHARE 1 and 2 schools. The survey was developed by Olivia and Heap in 2010 and includes 5 subscales, including shared and supportive leadership, shared value and vision, collective learning and application, shared personal practice, and supportive conditions. And we want to examine the participants' agreement with the statements relating to these 5 dimensions. And this survey has been developed in the US context, but it has been validated in a number of countries, including Turkey and Spain. So we think it's a strong tool for us to understand the construction of a professional learning community in SHARE schools. And next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, and I will first talk about our current findings on the impact of SHARE, first on teaching and learning. So based on the focus group interviews, we first found that the teachers develop more reflexive attitudes towards their work, similar to what has been already broached in previous seminars and sessions. We specifically found that SHARE 1 teachers, they now have more systematic reflections. So they now frequently do reflections after each class to inform future teaching rather than only in mentoring sessions or after open class. And for SHARE 2 schools, they have also recognized the importance of reflection in improving improving their teaching quality, and they choose not only to do decisions based on their intuition. And we also found that SHARE 1 and 2 schools, they have enhanced their research skills. SHARE 1 schools, compared to last year, they are more confident in selecting proper research questions and designing research. And for SHARE 2, they become familiar with the research procedures, for example, the data collection and analysis and the ethical process. And both SHARE 1 and 2 schools told us they are trying to use action research as a tool for problem solving. For example, more than one school told us they use action research to find a solution to poor student discipline. And also we could find some improvement on the part of learning, especially that student-centered learning has been encouraged in both SHARE 1 and 2 schools. And for SHARE 1, probably because they have already joined this project for 2 years, there are already some positive changes on the part of students. So students, they are more actively engaged in learning and more free to express themselves. And for SHARE 2, the teachers also reported to develop a deeper understanding of student needs. And both SHARE 1 and 2 schools found there are improved teacher-student relationships. So there are more mutual trust between the teachers and the students. And we also want to combine the qualitative data with the quantitative data. So we selected some items from the survey, which we thought they could complementing the qualitative data. So as shown in this following two diagrams, I should explain that first, in these two diagrams, the dark gray refers to participants who strongly disagree with the statement, and light gray are those who disagree with the statement, and the light blue are those who agree with the statement, and dark blue are those who strongly agree with the statement. So we can see actually more than 90% of teachers actually agreed that the staff members use multiple sources of data to make decisions about teaching and learning. And so actually they are using action research, and also that caring relationships exist among staff and students, supporting the findings in the interviews that there are improved teacher and student relationships. And next slide, please. Thank you. And another aspect that we found some improvement is the teacher development. So first, we found that teachers show stronger agency in making decisions and improving their pedagogies. Especially for SHARE 1 schools, we found that network coordinators become more confident in their research skills and mentoring other teachers and improving their own teaching. And also they are attracting more volunteers into this program. And we have some evidence that more democratic mechanism has been established to enroll participants. And for both SHARE 1 and 2 schools, teachers were found to more open to express their own opinions, and they also joined the decision-making process. Another positive sign is the establishment of collaborative learning. In SHARE 1 schools, we could find that this kind of collaboration has gone beyond the co-team of the SHARE project. There's more collaborations between the co-team and the volunteers, the co-team and other teachers. And for SHARE 2, they're in close collaborations with the SHARE 1 schools, and they are receiving help for mentoring and coaching. And our findings from the survey again supported the results in the interviews. We found that the majority of teachers, they agree that professional development focus on teaching and learning, and the staff members work together to seek knowledge, skills, strategies, and apply this new learning to their work. And individuals and teams have opportunity to apply learning and share the results of their practices. So we can say that there's more on teacher development and also more on collaborative work. Thank you. The next slide, please. Thank you. And last, we found that SHARE have an impact on school improvement. So for SHARE 1 schools, we found that they have disseminated the impact of action research at the whole school level to improve teaching quality. So previously, they mainly focused on the action research in certain forms and subjects, but now they try to spread this kind of effect. And also that the administrators in some Share 1 schools have used action research to inform management. So they are trying to use action research to understand teachers' needs and how to improve the school system. And I also found 2 schools from the Share 2 schools, they are using action research to realize their school mission. Moreover, we found more communications within and across schools. For Share 1 schools, they are trying to enhance the impact of the Share project and helping other schools to conduct action research. And there are also emerging evidence for Share 2 schools in this aspect, but probably because they have just joined the project, so this kind of effect was still more limited compared to Share 1. And from the survey, we found that most teachers actually they agree that data are used to prioritize actions to reach a shared vision, and the communication systems promote a flow of information across the entire school community. So it's to some extent also supported the findings from the qualitative data. And thank you very much. And I will hand over to my colleague, Elena.
Thank you very much, Tierney. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, and thank you very much for this opportunity to present and share the findings of our study. I will focus on some of the challenges, and the way we thought about challenges is something that is beyond the impact of the school. It's something that just we find ourselves in, and we need to find solutions for that. So the first major challenge is the workload. We know that most of the schools, they work in 2 shifts. There is 1 school that works in 3 shifts, and even there is a 4th sub-shift. So just finding time for colleagues to meet and discuss and plan is quite problematic. So workload was mentioned very often in our research interviews. And obviously we are still living in the consequences of pandemic and under the circumstances of pandemic. And what it means that some teachers and some students, they haven't seen each other for a long time. Students, they haven't seen, they didn't develop friendship. And so now teachers are trying their best to help students to develop this friendship, to develop this collegiality. So this is quite a difficult time at the moment. And it's compounded by a very high number of first grade students which went to school this year in Nur-Sultan. And there's still research need to be done, whether it's the consequences of migration or birth rate, and how to best accommodate this growing number of students in Nur-Sultan. And obviously it again talks to the problem that teachers are very overworked and about their workload. Online format is quite challenging, especially for Share 2. While for Share 1, some local sessions were conducted face-to-face in Nur-Sultan. For Share 2, all the sessions were online, and it poses quite various challenges. It's about engaging with the online, turning cameras on or off during online sessions. So this seemed to be quite problematic, and just learning in online regime, it's quite difficult. There is this, as you know, Zoom fatigue and so on and so forth. So we need to accommodate it in planning the program. There was another major concern about lack of resources in Kazakh and Russian, and in Kazakh language in particular. While there are some resources appearing and translations appearing in Russian, this is the Kazakh language resources that require the most attention, and a lot of colleagues are working on that. Lack of physical space in some schools was mentioned as a problem, and some schools are very creative, and they're starting renovation to open new classrooms or new research centers with the name of Share. So there's a lot of activities going on around that. And also there is changes in core team, and especially some heads, they moved to different schools. Some colleagues from core team, they moved to different schools. So there's this constant need to update the knowledge and skills and competencies of new colleagues and growing the team. We need to understand that we are talking about the core team, and then the project penetrates deeper into school through volunteers, and there's those who haven't joined the project yet. So the changes in core team have effect on that. And obviously, a huge problem that the visit to Cambridge was cancelled for SHARE 2, but we do hope that there would be another opportunity. But this does work as a huge point for creating a community, to creating common culture, and this needs to be looked at. And again, looking at the survey results, I think we selected 2 which have the least degree of agreement. As if you can compare to previous slides, there were quite a large degree of agreement. Here we have some that have less. So the statements which we selected are: the principal shares responsibility and rewards for innovative actions. As you can see, 23% of participants disagree. Fiscal resources are available for professional development. So we have a less degree of agreement than in other statements. Thank you very much. Can we move to the next slide, please? Looking at the challenges, we also want to embrace solutions, and some of the key enabling conditions that we discussed during the focus groups were around leadership, how important it is to have shared leadership, distributed leadership, develop collaboration, especially in this challenging time in online regime, and so on and so forth. And the issue of trust between school administration and teachers, between teachers and students are very important enabling conditions that we all need to work on. Building community is around the area of support. So what is needed is, again, we are building community face-to-face through online format, through online sessions, through online conferences, and we need to embrace it and build on the strengths of each other. Diversifying online training was another thought shared with us, that online training is becoming a little bit predictable. So we know that there will be a PowerPoint presentation, discussion in the breakout sessions. There is a reflection, and there was a need to include some other elements and to keep it constantly updating and reinventing the program, so to say. There was another concern about incentives and rewards, especially for teachers who are doing this work on top of their schedule, on top of all their other commitments. And we are encouraging teachers to integrate it in their practice. So this is enabling condition rather than doing something on top. And for that, they would like some kind of recognition, some kind of rewards, even if it's some credits for their professional development that they will be doing later in the future. And obviously resources, having resources in all languages are very important. And when we're talking about alignment moving forward, it's very important that action research is aligned with school mission. So all the projects that we discussed were very closely aligned, and this is very encouraging. There's also a need to understand what are the outcomes of the program and what are the expectations. It seems to me that a lot of expectations around this program, that students' results will improve momentarily, but this doesn't happen. The program is focusing on changing the perspectives of teachers and how they view the classroom, how they develop their relationship, collaboration between them, and then students' results will follow. And having this priorities set right is very important. And moving forward, it's about scaling up. And for scaling up, as we moved from 5 schools in SHARE 1 to 8 schools in SHARE 2, it was quite challenging. So resources need to be in place for further scaling up. And obviously talking about SHARE 3 as well, other 8 schools. Thank you very much. We can move to the next slide. And just to exemplify some of the enabling conditions and challenges that we were talking about, for example, this scale, shared values and vision, all participants, they showed very high degree of agreement with those statements that school goals focus on student learning beyond the test score and grades. I think this is very encouraging and very motivating, given the climate where we have in different countries focus on results and student scores. Staff members share visions for school improvement that have an undivided focus on student learning, again having student learning at the center of all planning, and that this idea is shared by stakeholders and staff members. And policies and programs are aligned to the school vision. As we can see there's a slightly larger number of participants who disagreed with this statement, but still on the whole we have a very positive dynamic. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. And again, 4 more statements from another scale, which is supportive conditions relations. And I think in the previous presentations in this session and in the session that we have had earlier today, we learned how important the relationships for developing professional learning communities. And you could see some of the statements, they have a quite high degree of agreement. For example, relationships among staff support honest and respectful and examination of data to enhance teaching and learning. School staff and stakeholders exhibit a sustained and unified effort to embed change into the school culture. And we know how difficult it is to embed change, but having this high degree of agreement with this statement is very important finding. A culture of trust, again, we were talking about trust and respect, and outstanding achievements is recognized and celebrated. Thank you. Can we please move to the next slide? These are very preliminary findings that we shared with you today, and we are still working on understanding differences between the cohorts, and these are some of the conclusions that I can share with you, and some very interesting dynamic that we noticed. So as I said, we focused on all staff in all schools, Share 1 and Share 2, and what we noticed that there are statistically significant differences between group. And what is interesting is that Share 2 shows a greater degree of agreement with those statements. So in these 4 statements, Share 2 group showed a very high degree of agreement in comparison to Share 1. And that's an interesting finding, because usually we think those who join the program later might have different agreement around these issues. But as we can see that there is a lot of work, it already goes on in those schools. And it's important to mention as well that this survey, it reflects not only what the impact of Share, but also the impact of all previous programs that were taking place. So that's quite an interesting and important finding that we will be looking into more detail. Thank you very much. If you can move to the last slide. Just two final points that we also found statistically significant differences between education or work-related characteristics and 2 of the survey subscales, in particular shared and supportive leadership. Participants who had bachelor's degree, we had 64% of those participants. They were in larger degree of agreement with the statements from this subscale than those who, for example, had their college degree as their highest education degree, which is again interesting dynamic, which we will look into more detail. And finally, shared personal practice subscale, the average score of teacher researchers, and again we had 33% in our sample of those participants, was significantly higher than teacher experts. There were 22% of participants. Thank you very much. We can move to the last slide. Thank you. I would like to express on behalf of my colleagues gratitude to SHARE 1 and SHARE 2 schools who participated in our research this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena and Tianyi. That was a very rich presentation. I have to say I found it all absolutely fascinating. I'm going to hand back to Nazipa now so that we can have a chance to take some of your questions. Can I thank everybody? A great deal of work went into this and it was a very, very interesting session. So over to you, Nazipa.
Thank you, Professor Colin. Огромное спасибо всем спикерам. Было очень
Thank you so much, all the speakers. It was very interesting to listen to you all. And what I see here in the chat box, people say that some of them know about SHARE. Some people really waited for the results to be shared. And I see some teachers take part in the SHARE project. They're writing their words of support to SHARE, and there are people who really wait for it. So I don't see any particular questions. School number 59, it is asking, how do you do the group work? Any group work? And what group work is more effective? It was asked in Kazakh.
жүргізуде оқушыларды топқа біріктіріп жұмыс жасатуда әр топтағы оқушы өз рөлін нақты біле ме? Топтық жұмыс жасаған кезде 59-шы мектептен сұраққа жауап бере алсаңыздар. Валентина Абдулаевна.
Да, құрметті әріптестер, мен Гүлжамиля Тоқтаровна өзімнің әріптесіме беремін.
Dear colleagues, let me give the floor to my colleague. Thank you for your question. First of all, let me say we did a group work. The work was organized in the following way. We got groups together according to their abilities. So we compiled our groups, putting several people together. Another question. My colleague Agbata said that every group, every student had to answer their questions, and they had to do the analysis as well. Depending on the level. Thank you, Guljamal. Many people talk about the SHARE project. SHARE project gives an opportunity for the teachers further development. It helps them to start doing research, and this will make them more effective educators, and therefore they're supporting the project. Also, they say that the time is an issue here because it needs time. It's a good project and it's good things to do, but it is so different because you have to watch the child. You have to see the abilities the child has. You have to make explanations. And research in action, it's a very difficult job. But we teachers, we are quite independent in what we are doing. And if we decide to do it academically, and if we really wish to do that, I don't see why we won't get any results. So we definitely will. And this is a consistent work, systematic work. And reflection helps here. It also helps with the constructive criticism. And it helps our mindset to be wider. So let me thank all the participants, all the speakers. Thank you so much. And I wish you good luck in this conference. If you are interested in the SHARE project, please contact us.
Сау саламатта болыңыздар.
Goodbye.